Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining me in another episode of Elevating Your Life. And I am so happy to share with you an amazing gentleman who I had the honor to interview a few years back. We have with us today Greg Hammer, MD. He is a professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, pediatric intensive care physician, pediatric anesthesiologist, mindfulness expert, and the author of the book, Gain Without Pain, the Happiness Handbook for Healthcare Professionals. And he is a member of the Stanford WellMD initiative. Dr. Hammer is the former chair of the Physician Wellness Task Force for the California Society of Anesthesiologists. He has been a visiting professor and lecturer on wellness at institutions worldwide and teaches GAIN to medical students, residents, and fellows at Stanford. And his book is absolutely amazing, and it's something we can all gain something from. He is a health enthusiast and meditator, utilizing a non-duality and mindfulness-based approach, including the GAIN method. Well, first off, Greg, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paula. Great to be with you. I
Oh,
should clarify that I retired from clinical medicine at the end of 2023.
oh, thank
So I'm still actively involved in teaching in various platforms and uh, certainly keeping up to date, giving lectures, etc.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for all you're doing. I mean, you're just making a difference to so many people. A big heartfelt thank you for that. And I'm really excited. You know, the theme today is sleep, your book. So first off, if you want to share any more of your background, and then tell us what prompted you to write the book about sleep.
Well, sleep is in the book. It's a chapter. The book, as you know, is really about a mindfulness practice to help reduce stress and increase happiness. Our brains are really not wired for happiness. They're wired more for survival. But the good news is that we have this amazing quality called neuroplasticity. And so through practice, intention, which is the I in gain, we can actually rewire our brains in adaptive ways to be happier. And physical wellness is certainly a significant component of our overall well-being, and sleep, exercise, and nutrition are really the three mainstays of our physical well-being. Sleep is often underrated and shouldn't be because we really need to prioritize it.
Yeah, and it really is true, isn't it, that we can be very focused on our nutrition and kind of not give a lot of attention to our sleep.
Well, especially in medicine, we had this sort of macho idea that we didn't really need. We'll defer sleep maybe for the weekends, or maybe we'll sleep when we're dead kind of mentality. But that's really kind of foolish, and I think has been really debunked that we generate a sleep deprived state when we don't get enough sleep for several nights in a row in particular, and then it's very difficult to make that up on the weekend. So yes, we'll gradually recover by getting enough sleep, but in the meantime, there are lots of adverse effects of sleep deprivation, and we really need to pay attention to our sleep. I should say, you asked me how I got into this, why I wrote the book. The book was really written because I became involved in the Stanford WellMD directive, uh, which was really about identifying the drivers and hopefully finding some solutions to physician burnout, which is a growing problem everywhere, including Stanford. So, in my sort of deep dive into burnout, what are the remedies? The remedies are in part certainly our physical well being. We need to take care of ourselves if we're going to be able to manage stress that leads otherwise to burnout. So, uh, I got asked to give a lecture on well-being and burnout, and then another and another, and then I had some sabbatical time and decided to get the message out by writing the book.
Oh, I love it. And, you know, to focus on well-being, that really is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves, isn't it?
It's really essential. I mean, our well-being is comprised of physical wellness and also mental and spiritual fitness. And if we don't pay attention to those, we're going to be unhappy and uh, even our lifespan will be limited. Of course, I guess if you're unhappy, living a long life would be punishment. So, but we're capable of being happier and living a healthier life and also extending our lifespan through healthy living and hopefully that can be paired with greater happiness and the desire to live longer and experience our grandchildren and maybe even their children.
Yes. I've always said I'm 19 forever and I'm going to be an old lady just dancing to my favorite song. That's what I'm putting out there. Might as well have fun with aging.
Well, yes, might as well enjoy every moment if you can.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes. So with sleep and the importance of that, first off, what would you say are some of the signs we may have that we have sleep deprivation and may not realize it?
I think, we do tend to be aware of when we're not getting enough sleep, both in duration and quality also. We get sleepy. We may fall asleep during the day or fall asleep during a meeting, for example. Need to take a nap. And then also we have a lot of physiologic changes. We get, first of all, mentally, we can get brain fog, we can get short of patience and get rather grumpy. Uh, Burnout is, in fact, a matter of chronic stress, and sleep deprivation certainly increases our level of stress and predisposes us to having a number of adverse physiologic and mental consequences. But, I think we know it when we're not getting enough sleep. We just don't feel well, and our brain is not functioning optimally. Our executive function is diminished. And then we have other physiologic issues. Changes in our appetite. We may lose or gain weight. And when we're sleep deprived, we're often too tired to exercise. And we also have these hormonal changes that stimulate us to eat sugary and fatty, so-called comfort food. So our nutrition suffers. So here we have the elements of sleep, exercise, and nutrition that are the three real domains of physical wellness. And they're also interrelated. When we're not getting enough sleep, our exercise and nutrition suffer as well. So this is sort of like a self-propagating uh, positive feedback loop.
Wow, wow. And something that just fascinates me is that you said sleep is a opportune time for cell regeneration, repair, muscle recovery, protein synthesis, brain maintenance. So all this happens as we give our body sleep and get in that down mode, correct?
Absolutely. We have, for example, in our body and our brain, we have accumulation of junk over time, junk proteins. You may have heard about proteins called amyloid and tau that tend to accumulate in people with repetitive head injury. They cause little tangles in our brain cells or neurons. They're found prominently in people with various forms of dementia, including Alzheimer's. And when we're sleeping, especially in deep sleep, we tend to clear these proteins. And there's a number of other sort of restorative and regenerative functions that occur, excuse me, when we're sleeping. And so it turns out that elimination of this sort of junk that tends to accumulate in our cells, including our brain cells, is a vital function. And without that, we have accelerated changes associated with aging. So you mentioned also memory formation. We have experiences during the day. We hear things, we read things, we experience things, and we tend to solidify memories of those things during deep sleep. And of course, this is important in terms of learning and executive function. There's a lot of very important physiologic processes that are associated with sleep.
Yeah. And this is something I've always wondered because I know it's good to get 8 hours sleep. But what if you're someone like me that wakes you up in the middle of the night, the dogs want to go outside and go potty. So even though I wake up and then I go back to sleep, does that make a difference? If the sleep is in, 2, 3 hours, 2, 3 hours, something like that.
Certainly, we would be best served if we could just sleep for 8 hours continuously. But most of us rarely experience that. Once in a while, we might go to sleep in a certain position and wake up in the same position without having been disturbed in between. So maybe 8 hours later, we wake up in that position. But that's relatively unusual, I think. For many of us, it's common, and I think it's normal to get up once or twice during the night to have a bio break, shall we say, and otherwise to wake up during the night. So it'd be great if we slept for 8 hours without interruption, but that's not realistic. So the deeper our sleep and the less interruptions and wakeful episodes we have during the night, the better. Um, but that doesn't always happen, of course.
So with going into a nice deep sleep, does it take time to progress to that, or can we fall asleep and we're in that in 10 minutes?
I think that everybody's different, and every night is probably different. So I think sometimes we are just, for whatever reason, exhausted. Maybe we didn't sleep well the night before. Maybe the day has been particularly draining mentally and physically. And I think during those times, we often fall asleep and we enter deep sleep pretty quickly, and we may stay there for a while. Of course, we're cycling through these various stages of sleep. But yeah, I think it depends. I think we've all had experiences where we closed our eyes and we fell asleep very quickly and we seemed to be in deep sleep for an extended period of time, and other nights where like I frequently wake up after even 1 hour and then go back to sleep. So I think that every night is a new experience, and we all have a lot of variability between us as well.
Mhm. Wow. Wow, I love it. Okay, here's one more question I was thinking about. Dreams. Does that make a difference with what goes on while we're sleeping and the healing? Do we need the dreams? Do we need to remember the dreams? How does that play in all of that chemistry going on, Greg?
That's a great question, Paul. I'm not really an expert in that area in terms of the importance of dreams. It is true that dreams occur during one of the natural stages of sleep. And so it is beneficial and restorative to kind of cycle through these four stages of sleep, including that associated with the dream state. Certainly, many people think that we're working things out in our dreams. People assign all kinds of importance to dreams, but again, kind of peripheral to my area of expertise. I think, my experience personally is that I believe if I wake up proximate to the time of having a dream or even in the middle of a dream, uh, I tend to remember the dream at least fleetingly. So if I really want to remember it, if it's something I feel like is significant, I'll try to jot it down because, as you know, we often lose the memory that we have initially, sometimes very quickly.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm not an expert on dream interpretation, but certainly that stage of sleep in which we dream is important. It's important for restorative purposes. So, yes, I'll leave some of the more nuanced interpretation with respect to dreaming to others.
Yeah. And sleep deprivation can really do effects with us physically, can it? Like, increased risk of stroke and high blood pressure or diabetes. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, first, as we discussed, important restorative processes are happening during sleep, including things that affect our brain health. And also, I think when we're sleep deprived, we tend not to manage stress very well. We're not as resilient. And, excuse me, chronic stress is one of the promoter of the diseases of aging and even aging itself. So oxidative injury, inflammation, and chronic stress are promoters of cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, metabolic disease, including obesity and type 2 diabetes, and even cancer. And so, in order to, I think, diminish stress and develop increased resilience to all of those elements of inflammation, oxidative injury, and uh, generalized chronic stress, sleep is really vital. I think we've all experienced that when we've had a good night's sleep, we're more patient, we're more resilient. And so when we do have what's called the acute stress response, we have greater resilience, which means that we can neutralize those changes associated with acute stress, the increase in adrenaline, the increase in cortisol, other hormonal changes. It's okay to experience that with acute stress as long as we have the resilience to neutralize those changes when we recognize that those changes are not adaptive. We're not getting ready to fight or flee. We're being triggered into acute stress just by our thoughts. This is often maladaptive. As long as we can neutralize that, and if we can't, it develops into chronic stress, which has all these other adverse consequences. And sleep, I think, certainly is a major factor in helping us develop and maintain resilience.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And in your book, Gain Without Pain, would you like to talk about some of the other points in there that you discuss that can really reach out to the audience and help them and realize, how amazing that book is? I mean, you share so many things. So go beyond the sleep topic if you'd like.
Sure. Well, the book does address physical well-being, so there are chapters on sleep, exercise, and nutrition. But really, the main thrust of the book is on mental and spiritual health. Mental health, really, I found that there are four domains that are embraced by the acronym GAIN, which is the title of the book. And those are gratitude, acceptance, intention, and non-judgment. And these are sort of really embedded in all religious and spiritual and philosophic traditions. So they're not certainly of my own device. Everybody knows that gratitude is essential to mental well-being and happiness. For example, we can imagine or probably know somebody who may not be wealthy and they're uh, happy, or somebody who is even physically challenged and happy, but it's hard to even imagine somebody who's ungrateful and happy. So I think it just is in our empiric understanding that gratitude is essential to happiness. Acceptance is also essential because life has pain as well as joy. We've all experienced loss. We all experience pain that's intrinsic to our existence. But if we can manage to accept things we can't change, so as the Serenity Prayer would have it, we're well served by discerning what we can change and what we cannot change that brings us discomfort or even pain. And for those things that we cannot change, uh, we hope to have the wisdom and ability to accept. And that really will decrease our suffering. So, gratitude, acceptance, the I in gain is intention. And the thesis here really is that our brains, again, are wired for survival. We have this acute stress response. For example, our brains are not wired for happiness. But fortunately, our brains are very malleable. We have this quality called neuroplasticity. And so we can actually take charge of the way we think and gradually rewire our brains in baby steps, of course. Our brains got this way, hardwired this way over hundreds of thousands of years. We're not going to change the way our brains are wired overnight, but we can make little incremental changes every day. And so, if we want to do that, we have to have a plan, we have to be purposeful, we have to have the I in gain, which is intention. And the fourth domain is non judgment because, as you know, we have a negativity bias. We tend to see others, the world, and particularly ourselves in a negative light. So we're very judgmental. And this is really not productive in most cases. We need to discern, but we don't necessarily need to render things as good or bad, especially ourselves. So through practice, we can actually learn to drop these judgments, which are so often negative. So gratitude, acceptance, intention, non-judgment constitute the gain approach, which is really a daily mindfulness meditation and lifestyle practice. So that's really the thrust of the book.
Yeah, I love it. And Isn't it just exciting and fascinating to know that we can, through the processes, rewire our brain and change our patterns, be healthier in all the aspects? I mean, that's really a great tool. And with challenges, become stronger, gain new perceptions. That really is an exciting thing to know that we can, as individuals, take steps in a direction we want to take our lives.
Yes, and just as we can improve our sleep hygiene through intention, we have to have a plan to do that. We can improve our physical fitness in terms of exercise and become stronger and have greater cardiovascular health. But it takes a plan, and we can also improve our diet. But again, we have to have intention. So we have to have a plan, but all those things can be accomplished, of course. There are lots of stories, maybe people you know who, even at a relatively older age, got themselves into much better physical condition, completely changed their diet. Maybe they had a cardiovascular event that provoked them to really change the way they eat and exercise and sleep. Um, so we make small incremental changes. We're not going to revolutionize these things overnight. We have to have a plan, and it's more of a marathon than a sprint. And the same goes for our mental well-being. We can really improve our mental health, think in a more positive way, learn to be more present, which is really sort of the core of mindfulness. It's appreciating and experiencing the fullness of this present moment uh, on purpose without judgment. So we can do all those things, and it just takes a plan. But once we get started, it seems to get easier and easier, just as with exercise. You start to get in shape, and then you get kind of jazzed about it, and that next step seems to be a little bit easier. It's getting started that really requires that activation energy and poses difficulty. But we can do it.
We can do it. I love it. I love it. Oh, this is just so fantastic. I do have a quick question, something I'm curious about. There's all that happens when we're sleeping, the repair and the recovery. Does anything like that happen when we're awake, or is it pretty much just when we sleep? I'm curious.
No, our bodies are also capable of a lot of restorative activities during the waking state. For example, our bodies can get rid of a lot of older aging cells called senescent cells. The process of eliminating those is called senolysis. We can encourage that sort of internal cleaning up while we're awake in a number of ways. There are certain supplements that tend to promote senolysis, and intermittent fasting has the benefit of increasing this cleaning up process, again, mostly while we're awake. So if we just, for example, eat within an 8 hour period a day and fast for the other 16 hours, we're sort of stimulating some senolysis. This low grade metabolic stress does that. No, there's certainly a lot of important physiologic processes that are uh, improving and maintaining our health while we're awake as well.
I love that. I love that, Doctor. Well, with a few minutes left in the show, what last message do you want to share with everyone? And do you want to share a website or any information you'd like them to have to learn more about you?
Sure, my website is simply greghammermd.com, GregHammerMD.com. I'm also on Facebook. Uh, I think a nice concluding message is that, we're all the same. We're all made out of the same stuff. We're all the same. We all have this negativity bias. We all have a hard time staying present, which is where happiness lives. We close our eyes and try to think of what's going on right this moment. Our brains tend to take us into the future. We worry about things we have to do later or something we said or did yesterday. It's hard for us to be present and positive, but we're all that way. This is not our dirty little secret. And the fact is that we can change our mental and physical health for the better if we have a plan. And so, let's encourage each other. Let's not sort of shy away from getting started. Um, and again, this is not our dirty little secret. We're all made the same way, and we can all kind of right the ship as well.
Yeah. So would you say starting out, make that plan and just start taking those steps, and we can make some great changes and really help ourselves, can't we?
Absolutely. So if you're not sleeping well, read about sleep hygiene. There's a handful of things that we can all do to and encourage better sleep, keep the room dark, keep the room cool if you can, put your screens away an hour before bedtime, try to go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day. Don't drink caffeine for me after the morning because caffeine sticks around so long in the body. That afternoon cup can keep me awake at night. Certainly, some people can have a cup of coffee and go right to sleep, but that's not the majority of us. So, these are all things we can do to improve our sleep. And similarly with our diet and our exercise and our mental health, just get started, start taking some baby steps. But I think, we started talking about sleep. Sleep should be a priority. And, there are things that we can do, certainly simple steps, to improve the quality of our sleep.
Yeah. So make that sleep a priority and take those simple steps that can improve that.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, where can everyone get a copy of your book, Gain Without Pain?
The book is on Amazon, and there's a link on my website, greghammermd.com. So it's out there. It's pretty easy to find. If you just search Gain Without Pain and my last name, Hammer, you'll find where to get the book. It's even available on used book sites now.
Yes, I
I don't know
love
if that's a
it.
good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I just have to say thank you so much for writing this amazing book. And, you're improving so many lives and helping so many people. And I'm really grateful for that. One more quick question. Do you see yourself writing another book, Greg?
Well, I just finished my second book. It's about the GAIN mindfulness practice for those who take care of teenagers, parents, teachers, school administrators, counselors, coaches, grandparents. The book is called A Mindful Teen, and it's at the publisher now, so it probably won't be out for another 6 or 9 months, I would think. But yeah, so pretty soon I'll sort of regroup and
I
start working
love
on my
it.
next book.
We'll watch for that, a mindful teen. And we might have to do a show about that. Everyone, thank you so much. Doctor, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
My pleasure, Paula. Great to be with you.